Stop. This is what I needed because I'm terrified right now. I should say, please lower your expectations because y'all started here. And now I gotta make sure that I get to a point where that amount of love is warranted. Hi, everybody. Nice and responsive. I love that. My name is Tracy Clayton, and this talk is basically gonna be about how I did a horribly public job of not taking care of myself on my timeline. The title of my talk is Log Off, Fam. Self-care in the timeline era. Now, it's a little bit of a spoiler because this is how I believe we take care of ourselves in this era, but my story is a long one. It's taken me too long, in my estimation, to realize that such an easy thing can be really hard to do and even harder to realize when you should do it. So, I have decided to lay myself upon the sacrificial altar and bare my soul and all of my embarrassing public anxiety attacks and meltdowns in hopes that there's something that you can identify with, that you can learn from my mistakes. Don't be like Miss Sophia, like from The Color Purple. Also, I don't know, I'm just gonna talk for a while and see what happens. It worked. Chapter 1. I decided to bring some drama into the presentation with chapters. Chapter 1, 1995. So here's some background. I believe, I guess I can't prove it, but I'm positive I was born with the most oppressive case of, I guess, infant anxiety disorder that you can have. It's just something that has always been with me. I've always just been afraid of everything, but I didn't know why. As a kid, I could not do sleepovers at friends' houses because I'm just I don't know where your hiding spaces are. You know, if something happens, I don't know where your knives are. Yes, I'm 5 years old, but you never know. So that always kept a big part of myself inside, which I guess is pretty much all of myself, because I knew that I was funny. I thought I was funny, at least, and interesting. But I mean, just having to convey that and talk to other people in real life, it just flooded me, even as a kid, was oh my God, what if I say something stupid? They're gonna laugh at me, and I don't have any proof at this age that laughter will not physically kill me. So I just really wanted to avoid that, which is how I think I became a writer, or at least leaned into writing eventually, because I was oh, so you can talk to people and not have to open your mouth or even look at them? Sign me all the way up. I'm here for that. So in 1995, I got my first computer. I know that it was 1995 because I got it for Christmas, and I also got the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack. Shout out to Shoop Shoopin'. And that's also the first time that my family and I got on the internet. We had the little America Online floppy disk? It wasn't floppy. It's the ROMs, the things. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you're old enough, I guess you know what I'm talking about. And almost instantly, I was talking to people. And I don't think I realized until now how significant that was, because here am I, who I don't like to talk to anybody, but on the internet is talking, but not really, because you're writing, and maybe the people on the other end exist, maybe they don't. But it was a space to learn how to talk to people, which I didn't really know how to do, and it was a space to feel that social need without having to leave the comfort of my house, where I know where the knives are, I know where to hide if somebody breaks in. And it started in the creepy AOL and Yahoo chat rooms, which my mother should have been a little more public or tuned in about. But I mean, it's 95. We didn't know about how awful people could be on the internet. I did find out how awful people could be on the internet when I started posting on message boards. Yeah, that's where the title of this whole talk, Log Off Fam, comes from. There was a message board that I absolutely loved, being in Kentucky, and I was just getting into hip hop and the Roots and D'Angelo and all these other folks, and the message boards were amazing because I got to talk to people who lived with other Black people, and I was what? This is amazing. And I mean, I guess there's no fancy way to say that, like, I learned how to interact with humans and be social, but I also learned how to navigate some really shitty parts of the internet. I'm assuming I can say shitty. I hope I can say shitty. I mean, the message boards are just the best and worst of everything because there are people who are smart and like to have good conversations and are funny. And then there are the people who are there because they literally were not hugged enough as children. You know what I mean? Like, there are people who, I mean, it was early trolling, I guess. But I learned how to deal with the negative as I'm learning how to talk and communicate on the internet. And since I did it so much, I got really good at it. So fast forward, a thing called Twitter pops up. And at this time, I'm starting to realize that the message boards are cool, but like I can't cut out like the awful part. You know, it's just like you sign up, you see everything. There's no mute feature. You can unfollow anybody, you know? So when Twitter happens, I'm like, let me see what this is about. I think I started 2009. My memory is barely there anymore. My first tweet I remember was, okay, I'm here, now what? And I deleted it after a week. I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever experienced. And it's like, what's the point? Who am I talking to? You know, like, who are you people? I don't know, what's the point? And then I realized that is the point, or at least it was for me. I've always been a journaler as somebody who, number one, didn't discover therapy until she was well into her 20s. And just as somebody who's always written better than she speaks. I'm definitely one of those people who had, not a live journal, I had a blog spot, I think. Shout out to blog spot. So of course, whenever I was like upset and needed to vent, I'm going to Blogspot and everything's terrible and school is awful and I'm the only black person and nah. And so I eventually went back to Twitter. I still don't know why. And that's how I began to use Twitter. I had like 12 followers. I knew 3 of them. That's it. And I tweeted like no one was watching because nobody was watching. And, you know, at the time, I'm working little menial jobs, answering phones for who knows who, for what reason, I couldn't even tell you to this day. And as that's happening, I'm tweeting about how much this really sucks. And as I'm getting older and I'm noticing that there's this sense of doom that I feel all the time. You know, I'm like, working myself through that. I know that I wasn't talking to anybody, and I know that there was nobody who had the answers, but it just felt good to get it out of my body someplace that was not a live journal, you know, like at least somebody can maybe see this somewhere. And I think there's something really positive and powerful about somebody being able to bear witness to your story and what you're going through, even if you know that they are or are not. Excuse me. So eventually, I don't know where I went from this is terrible to I can't live without this thing and I'm gonna be here all the time, but that's essentially what happened. And eventually, my followership, I guess, my audience grew. And since I was already being my complete self, for better or for worse, often for worst, I was used to sharing TMI, just being really, really painfully sometimes open. And as my followership grew, I was like, so if they're following me and I'm being like my actual complete self, maybe that's not a bad thing, you know? So I continued to tweet as if no one was reading, even though they were. And at the time, my jobs didn't know what Twitter was, so I was just like, you know, I can say all the cuss words, I can just like do all of the things. And I think that was beneficial because I find that that is what makes it easy for someone to connect with you, is when you're being honest, whether that honesty is like, I fucked up this thing yesterday, or I believe this really awful thing and it confuses me and I don't like it. That is what allows someone to see pieces of themselves in you. Bless you. And that paid off eventually because I began getting jobs from the internet, which is a very, very rare thing. But I got a couple of freelance writing jobs as I got older. I was no longer 12 years old when this was happening. A lot of them were social media based. Great experiences because I think I was working for theroot.com, and that was my first like job where I was supporting myself as a writer. And I was like, I don't care what the job is, this is really, really fucking cool. And the coolness factor increased when I got a job at BuzzFeed. Hey. Chapter 2, I work for the internet, and this is in quotations because once I got the job at BuzzFeed, which I almost didn't take because I didn't want to move to New York City, no shade to New York City, but a little bit of shade to New York City. I was just like, I don't know that this is what the Lord wants of me, so, whatever. But I decided to do it because I was 30 years old at the time and didn't have any kids. I thought I knew the man that I was going to have kids with, but that's a whole nother conference and a whole nother talk. But my grandmother was getting older, and we were talking about putting her in a home, and my mother's getting older, and she had to have another eye surgery, and I'm just like, this is not a great time for me to leave my folks, my people. But they were like, you don't have any kids? Just come out for 6 months. And I was like, all right, I guess I can say yes. Fully intending to take my black ass back home in 6 months, right? Because I was like, I got a 6-month lease, that's it. Stayed a little bit longer. I think I was there for about 4 years. Something you'll notice is that my memory is shit. It's almost gone. And it's mostly because of, that's kind of how depression works. It's a thing that it does. It just makes every day seem like the next day and the next day and the next day. Also, I'm just bad with dates. So, but yeah, it ended up being the best and worst time of my life working at BuzzFeed. Best time because it was fun. It was like this huge adult computer room where you could wear whatever you want to work. What? No more casual Fridays? I don't have to pay $5 in some weird thing to wear jeans on Friday. This is amazing. And again, I'm 30, and then I was one of the oldest people in the company, which was new to me. So no shade to anybody who may be feeling shade from that. But it was fun. I met some of the best people, people that I love and adore to this day, came from there. There was tons of freedom. I don't know that I was ever on time for work, and they didn't fire me for that, which they honestly could and should have. And there was just so much startup money around, and there was this feeling of just you can do whatever you want. And that's what we were told at that point. And BuzzFeed was a fantastic place to do that because they were very much you got an idea, try this thing. If it works, then everybody's gonna do it, which was a thing. Or if it doesn't work, just pitch it out. We'll do something else. We got money, basically. And that ultimately, about 2 years down the road, led to another round, which maybe you heard of it, maybe you haven't. But that's the thing that's changed my life, and I am told that it's changed the lives of other people, so that's not too shabby. But also, it was diverse. And I say that it was diverse, not so much in the current capital D diversity way. I think I was black hire number 6 or so, and it was a lot. You know what I mean? Which is sad. That in itself is an essay on so much that is wrong in media in America in general. But I was just I can sit down with black people at work and not have to code switch the whole time. It's amazing. Now, it was not great. It was also one of the hardest and most difficult times in my life because diversity is not the same as inclusion. And we didn't start talking about inclusion until years later. And essentially, once they got black, brown, diverse folks in the door, that was kind of it, And in the beginning, that was enough because it was so different, especially from where I came from. My smallest offices went from 4 people, I was the only black one, to 20 people, I was the only black one. You know what I mean? It really impacts and affects the way that you are able to produce and be productive and focus and feel good about yourself. So that part wasn't great. I think that after all of the fun and the dazzle of all the happy hours and the T-shirts, they gave us so many T-shirts, y'all, oh my gosh. And once all of that sort of wore off, I was like, some of this isn't really fair. They're expecting black writers to come in and be able to pull 1 million clicks per post like Chad can do. Well, Chad is white and his audience is built in. If I write a post about how much I love the Girlfriend series, and my editor, yes, shout out to Girlfriends, shout out. And my editor is like, I just don't think that this is very relevant. Of course you don't, Becky, you don't watch Girlfriends, But I guess I say all that to say that yes, BuzzFeed was then, and could still be now, one of the best, if not the best, newsroom to work in then, because they were so open and liberal, or at least seemed to be. But what we forgot, and what I did not really realize until much later, is that even though they were the best, it was still really fucking awful. Like, we were the best of a trash heap. Which, I don't want to take anything away from them or than us being the best of that trash heap, but there was just so much more work to do. The Another Round bump. So, the way that Another Round came about is about 2 years after I was there. I had been Heben and I were there. Heben, I think, was full-time person number 1, believe it or not, Black number 1. I think, don't quote me on that. But, we were there and things aren't really going great. Like this post that I wrote about race didn't do very well. Can't imagine why. And this is still back when BuzzFeed was like, well, let's just try this thing. And if it works, we'll keep doing it. And if not, we'll move on. So they wanted to try podcasts. I had never heard of podcasts because I was just like, isn't that like NPR? And isn't everybody on NPR white? And not my deal. Heben, who is secretly a 47-year-old woman, loved the podcast and the idea. And so we went for it. We had no idea what was going to happen. And it became evident to everyone else but me, I think I was the last one to notice, that this is going to become like a thing, like a really big thing. And it did. It got really, really big, and it got big faster than we expected. And I think that it grew in a way that the company was not prepared for. And I say that to say that scared money don't make money, right? And in order to keep feeding something that's doing so well with like chicken wire and a piece of chewed bubble gum, which is what we were working with, because, bless you. I should stop interrupting. Bless everybody when you sneeze. Just know that that's what's in my heart. That's what's in my heart for you. But we were basically on an island doing this thing with very, very little resources, very little attention, which was great because we could do whatever we wanted to do. We had this amazing, amazing team of producers, all women, actually diverse, different racial backgrounds, different sexuality orientations and identifications. It was amazing. But us being on that island meant that when we asked for another producer, because it's getting a little hectic, well, we don't think that you need it, and you don't think that we need it because you haven't been paying attention to us here on this island. So we really did it for as long as we could. We did it for longer than we could, actually, and for longer than we should have, because it's draining. It's draining. Also, we weren't doing a seasonal structure, so it was just like a perpetual weekly show. And if I could go back in time, of all the other things, if I could change, seasons. If you're gonna get into a podcast, do seasons, because it can drain you very, 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 very quickly. So it got to a point where everybody's tired, everybody's run down, we're tired of asking for more resources. This may be around the time when I believed the company was about to do the pivot to video thing, which everyone was doing. Had they came out and said that, we would have understood. But I do know that there was one time when we were like, what do we have to do to get more resources? And we were told flat out, do video. And I was like, cool, that's the opposite of a podcast. So, and we didn't do it. We didn't want to do it because, it's the opposite of a podcast, and that's not what I'm here to do, and we should have the option to not do it. Anyway, long story short, they eventually decided, I believe, not to fund it anymore. And that sucked, but we were given legal ownership of the show, which, even as angry as I've ever been at all of media, I've always been really, really grateful to BuzzFeed for this, because they didn't have to do that. Why they did it, open to interpretation depending, but they did it. And I now know that being able to own your work is one of the most powerful, powerful things ever. And now the show gets to live on should we decide to do it again. I will say though, and now this is not meant or intended to be a mud fest. Like this is not about like the shit that BuzzFeed did to us. I will say though, we do not own our back catalog, even though other podcasts from BuzzFeed do. I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just pointing it out. Ooh, is that a hiss? Yes. So the road there was really, really draining. I mean, I remember the moment where I was like, I think I might be depressed. And there's a lot of odd shame that comes with mood disorders, mental health, even though I was at a part where I was just, yes, I can talk about being anxious. In my head, depression was just like, oh no, now I'm sick. Now, it took a long time for me to even tweet that I was depressed because I was just like, anxiety is like sexy depression, it's, it's in right now, and depression is just like, my only reference was those depression commercials where it's just like, are you sad every day? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be like this lady. She's going through it. So I got the inkling and the feeling that this was affecting me on a level that I was unfamiliar with and unprepared to deal with. And once we were given ownership of the show, we went on hiatus. Even though some people were like, you're lying to us, it's never coming back. Not true. We still don't know where it's gonna go. It's 50-50. We've not lied to anyone. We own it. We can do what we want, whenever we want with it, which again is a really, really good thing. And as soon as it went on hiatus, I was like, y'all owe me a break. You owe me some rest. You did this to me is how I felt. And of course, when depression hits, it's rarely because of one thing. I was also getting older, and family stuff was happening. This did not help, though. It didn't help. And I decided to take the steps to go on medical leave and get myself together. I had an amazing therapist, somehow managed to get my hands on a psychiatrist. None of these are easy tasks. Both of mine are Black women, which is an impossible task. Yes. So I definitely credit them with me being on stage today. So I was on medical leave when I had then been on medical leave for, I don't know what the technical terms are, but I wasn't getting a paycheck, but I was still employed by BuzzFeed, still on medical leave. Don't know how I didn't get evicted, but I didn't. And so when the news of the layoffs came, I'm like, you can't fire somebody when they're on medical leave. It doesn't include me, is what I thought. However, your girl got fired on her day off, kind of like Craig from Friday. So I remember the day that the announcement that they were Xing the Pod Squad came. I am at home, buried beneath pizza boxes and blankets, and you know the way that a depressed apartment looks. And I'm watching, and I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening. And the only thing I could do was tweet. It's the only way that I feel like I could support them because I couldn't leave my house. I had developed a fantastic case of agoraphobia in addition. Even talking to people face to face was hard because when you're depressed and you're tired, your cognitive ability even is limited, and it's hard to physically look at somebody. I forget simple words all the time, and I pretend it's just because I'm so quirky, but nah. My brain doesn't produce the right words all the time. And so I'm glued to Twitter as all this is happening. And then that same day, I'm in my email, and I'm just like, oh, so me too? I'm fired too? While I'm on medical leave? First of all, sounds illegal. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But from then on, I was just glued and attached to that screen. And I was attached to that screen because, again, my anxiety, this is how I dealt with things when they happened. Since 2009 or whenever I joined Twitter, that's how I dealt with it. And I was just looking at it all the time. So first, the Pod Squad was fired, and then all of my friends were getting fired. People who were so smart and so creative, a lot of people who had been there for years and years and really helped to build the company and make it what it was. I had a front row seat for the worst concert I've ever been to in my life. And again, like, the thing is, like, I'm front row center for this, and I'm just like watching every day, and I'm so mad, and I'm so pissed at everything and everybody. But I wasn't on Twitter just to watch that. I was on Twitter constantly because I'm always on Twitter constantly. And social media now, and like all of our timelines are like blinking, you know, they're like breathing. And I really resent those cafes with signs that are like, no cell phones, talk to people like your grandparents did. I don't want to hear that. My grandparents were not on their cell phones because they didn't exist. Point blank, period. I don't want to hear that. But I was there, and I had to really a thing that we need to do is divorce ourselves with the notion that Twitter is just Twitter. You know, like, it's got an off button, yes, but people meet on Twitter, they fall in love on Twitter, they cheat on their spouses on Twitter and have little break babies on Twitter, and they get jobs on Twitter, they get fired sometimes on Twitter. You know, like, once a thing starts impacting your life offline, it's not a just anything anymore. So I was there because I was hurting, and I was trying to alleviate that hurt, but I was trying to use the thing that was hurting me the most. And there was just so much going on that I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see that that's what was happening. So another thing I didn't realize is that a lot of the tweet storms and the tweeting that I did then were actually anxiety attacks. And that's because anxiety can look different in everybody. Like, sometimes it's rocking back and forth in a corner and hyperventilating and you can't breathe. Sometimes it's just sitting and staring off into the distance and not being able to speak. Sometimes it's freaking out on Twitter, you know, because that was me in a very heightened emotional state. And sometimes that also counts as an anxiety attack. And I was there. I was in this spiral. Inertia is a very real thing. And since I was always bouncing from depressed thought to depressed thought, I stayed there because that's what inertia is, you know? If you're depressed, you're likely to stay depressed unless you can do something to help yourself not be depressed. But what I did after this awful concert, I went to the after party. Who does that? I'm just like, this concert is awful. I want my money back. You want to go to this after party, see what it's doing? No, I didn't want to, but I did it because, again, inertia. That's what inertia was forcing me to do. So again, I'm watching all of my friends be hurt, and I just had a months long, I can't remember, anxiety attack in front of the entire world. I should have left that after party for a lot of reasons. One, I was exhausted, physically exhausted. And I think that's a thing that we don't think about, is like mental exhaustion can translate into physical exhaustion in a lot of ways. Me, I can tell when I'm tired because I am very, very prone to anxiety attacks because I don't have the energy to fire up that part of my brain that walks me through my coping skills and says, everything's okay. I'm just tired. And so I'm just like, this. As soon as I wake up, I'm just like, everything's awful, everything's awful. I should have logged off because it was impeding my healing in ways that I did not understand. It kept me from healing. It's not like I started to heal and then it kept me from it. I just didn't heal and I couldn't heal. And the reason for that is it's like trying to get over the flu in a room full of people who are coughing and hacking and sneezing with the flu. You know, you have to remove yourself from the thing that is making you sick, whether it's physically or mentally. That's just how it goes. Like a broken leg won't heal if you're still trying to run a marathon on it. Those are just the facts. I know this now. I call this chapter Last Call at Last, because I'm just like, oh, okay, I should leave. This isn't working. And I felt bad for it taking that long for me to realize what I needed was to just log off. even though I now understand why. And another reason that I really now know that I need to log off is because BuzzFeed is too successful, and I can't mute enough people, I can't block enough hashtags or words. I still love so many people who work there, and I want to support them in their work and know what's going on with them. Also, I was trying to find an Airbnb in Louisville, Kentucky, so I can go home and visit my family. I find a perfect Airbnb, and I'm like, yes, I can do this. I scroll down at the bottom, it says, ranked #1 Airbnb by BuzzFeed. And I'm just like, can we pause it? Can we just give me a break? I need a break to breathe. I just need a break to get away from it. And I mean, I don't know if I ever will, honestly. It's really hard. Even though it's really hard, I managed to make some really amazing strides in pulling myself out of this pit. Again, thanks to my medical team that I was able to keep even without insurance, just because they are good people, and also because when it happened, Twitter sent so much money. Like, my Venmo and my Cash App were just dinging the entire time. I'd asked for nothing. I wasn't expecting anything. And I was scared I was gonna cry. But this community kept me alive and it kept me afloat. And it's another example of how this thing that I love so much is the same thing that's hurting me, you know? But I kept up. I finally cared enough about myself to make sure I was going to those therapy appointments, and to make sure I was going to my psych appointments, and to make sure that I didn't let down the people who had reached into their own pockets. And I am gonna cry, so I'm gonna just so my folks, my new community helped keep me afloat, and I'm better. I'm better now. I'm still really angry. I'm still super angry. But I at least know now that I need to log off, because even though social media is like blinking and breathing, it's not. Twitter has an off button. You can log off of everything that you want. You should keep blinking though. Refreshes all the eye moisture and stuff. Breathing, also important. You should not stop doing that. But I mean, it feels like breathing and blinking, but we need to remember that we can live without it. You know, you can take a break and people won't forget you. That's the thing that I was worried about since I basically started my career on Twitter. I'm just like, if I'm not tweeting all the time, everybody's gonna forget me. Hope that's not true, because I've been teasing a break and a vacation from Twitter for a while, and that's because all of my friends that I've been so angry on behalf of they appear to have moved on, and they're happy, and we've got new haircuts and new jobs, and everybody's skin looks great. And you know, I had been fighting with BuzzFeed legally because I was given a completely insulting severance package, and I'm just like, well, this is a mistake, you know. I just need to let them know that they messed this up and whatever. Didn't quite go the way that I thought it was, so I'm going back and forth with them. I'm also fighting an insurance company who was denying my benefits because they saw pictures of me smiling on social media. Literally, they saw me on vacation and at a wedding, and I'm like, my therapist told me to do both of those. What are you doing? What are you talking? So I'm fighting them, and I'm fighting BuzzFeed, and they're corporations with money and lawyers that know how to stall and tire you out. I only have this much energy as it is. I wanted my money, but then I realized I didn't need it. You know, I was still surviving somehow, thanks to Twitter, thanks to everyone in my life and in my support community. And when I realized that I didn't need their money, and that what I really wanted was a sense of justice, and that no amount of money would have given me that, I contented myself with being able to do this, to tell my story, because I didn't sign an NDA. I wanted I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to sign that NDA because that would have meant that I would have gotten money that I thought that I was due, that I was really, really due. But it's much more important for me to be able to tell my story. And I was freaking out backstage just now, and it's been a while since I got nervous before I talk, but I'm just like, I know what I can and can't say because I have a lawyer. I've learned that those are helpful. But, companies have power that I don't still. They can be intimidating. What if I say something that they don't like and then we're locked back into lawyers? What if me, being a black girl, publicly speaking out on being mistreated by a company prevents me from working with other companies and other larger brands? Through that fear, I knew that I had to do this because I was so afraid. And I know that, I know. I know that anything worth having is truly worth the fight to get it. And if nothing else, I want somebody else to be able to look at my story and all of my mistakes and me being as annoying as hell on Twitter and just being able to see, if nothing else, she tried. If nothing else, she did not take this sitting all the way down. Sometimes I was reclining a little bit. And I just kept thinking about everybody, the black folks still at BuzzFeed, and I just wanted to speak out for them. And I just felt like such a failure. And then I realized that, just trying, just risking it, it's a gift I hope that I can give to somebody, because there's always a little piece of yourself that you can find, I think, in stories like this. Even if you can't slay the dragon, trying to slay that dragon can help inspire somebody else to do the same, or at least make them feel less crazy for even seeing the dragon that nobody else really sees. So I am going to attempt to divest myself of Twitter. I'm going to say this last part, and then I'm going to wrap up. Gratituding. I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram, but recently I have started a gratitude journal. And when I mentioned it to my therapist, we had a really interesting conversation about how gratitude can be healing. And she had said that before, before I really got it, and I was like, all right, it sounds fake, but whatever. But it really does help. And it helps because, again, depression robs you of energy and your memory, and it really robs you of hope. And that sounds really corny, but hope is a thing that makes us feel like change can happen. Hope is a thing that leads to motivation. Motivation is a thing that leads to action. And if you don't have that hope, then you never get to that point of action. And the challenge of trying to find something good and something shitty that happened is really empowering, because it's allowed me, it sort of neutralizes some of the bad, because if I can think of something good that I got from this experience, then I can't wish that the experience didn't happen. Some of the best things, I'm not all the way to the point where I can think about, just give a list of all the good I've gotten from this stuff, because again, I'm still angry. And I'm allowing myself time to be angry, trying to be less angry on the timeline. Shout out to anger, yes. But some of the great things that I got are a sister in Heben. Nigatu is my co-host from Another Round. Yes, give it up for Heben. I've got an amazing platform that I pray every day that I'm using responsibly. I've gotten a community of people that I've never even known, never even seen or met. And it also, it helps to, the journal provided me with a physical manifestation of the good things that happen in life. Depression programs your brain to only focus on the negative. Anxiety makes you do the same thing, because your anxiety is trying to be don't forget this bad thing so that it never, ever happens again. In this way, with the journal, I get physical proof that there are still good things around. And I get proof that I can still do something consistently, which is another thing that's been really hard. But gratitude and empathy, I think, are the greatest gifts that this entire experience has given me. And I look forward to the day, I don't think I'm there yet, but I really look forward to the day that I can say, thank you for the darkest days of my life. Because I think that that is an amazing goal to have, and it sounds like a fantastic feeling to have as well. So I'm thankful for a lot. I'm thankful to be here in front of you all. I'm thankful for you all being here and listening, and hopefully this helps stuff. Get off, log off. Everybody log off for a while. I always say, even if you don't think you need therapy, go just to make sure, you know? And even if you don't think you need to log off, just do it for a week and make sure that you'll be okay. And if you were not okay, once again, go to the therapy part and just keep your head up, believe in yourself, and try to find things to be thankful for, even in impossible places. I talked too long again. Thank y'all. Wow. I sing it. Thank y'all.